Good afternoon, precious friends. Welcome back to Aunt Patty's Kitchen on the Carnivore Hippie channel. Today we're going to be making one of my favorite things, one of my hubby's favorite things. It's called variously chicken gnocchi or chicken meat dumplings, and you can use them to make all kinds of really delicious dishes. You could just eat them by the spoonful, and also in the next video you will be using them to make what a lot of people are calling carnivore mac and cheese. The mac, of course, being the chicken, little chicken meatball dumplings, but they're delicious by themselves. I like to eat them dressed in a little browned butter and sage, like gnocchi or regular potato gnocchi are. They're just delicious and versatile, and you'll just have so many uses for them once you learn how to make them. So for hardware, we're going to need a food processor to grind up the chicken. You really need a food processor for this. I've seen it done in a blender, but I haven't been able to successfully do it in a blender because the paste gets too thick really for a blender. A food processor is the perfect tool for this. So we're also going to need a slotted spoon for poaching our gnocchis, a rubber or silicone scraper or spatula for moving the chicken dough or paste, microplane grater for our seasoning because we're going to be using a little fresh nutmeg, and a pastry bag. This is a disposable 12-inch pastry bag. You can just use a Ziploc bag with the corner cut out. This is about a 1-inch aperture cut across the end of the bag. I keep pastry bags just because I find them really useful, but if you don't have a supply of them, just do what most people do and use a gallon Ziploc bag, and also a tall vessel of some sort. This is just a plastic cup that you can seat the bag in to help you fill it, because it's almost impossible to get this paste into the bag without while trying to hold the bag open with the other hand. So that's what we need in terms of hardware. Oh, and we are going to need about 3-quart saucepan. You can see it on the stove behind me, to poach your gnocchis, or any other vessel that you feel like is an appropriate size. Just keep in mind, if it's a smaller vessel, you'll need to do more batches, and that takes a lot longer. So I've got a 3-quart saucepan filled about 2/3 of the way with water that's heating up back there, so it'll be ready when we're ready for it. And now for our software or ingredients. Here, first of all, initially we have a pound of boneless, skinless chicken breast cut into about a 1-inch dice. Now you can use, if it's convenient for you, ground chicken breast. I like ground chicken breast because I find that if you make it, if it needs to be lean in order to get a good texture on the gnocchi, and besides which, if you need to eat more fat, you can just put cheese or butter or bacon or whatever else on it that you want. But the lean, if the paste is too fatty, then the fat melts out during the poaching, and then the water enters the little gnocchis, and it makes them kind of grainy and spongy, which is unpleasant to me. So I ordinarily would use ground chicken, but lately the whole chicken breast has been $3 a pound, and the ground chicken's been close to $6 a pound. So we're just going to opt to grind our own at this point in the food processor. Along with that, we have 2 chicken eggs, a tablespoon of egg white powder. If you don't have this, you can leave it out, but I find that it really improves the texture of the little gnocchis. If you've been making my carnivore bread, you probably have some of this on hand, but if you don't have it, don't worry about it. Just know that your gnocchis will be a little bit softer. We have a teaspoon of plain gelatin bloomed in a tablespoon of water. Just put a tablespoon of water in your little vessel and sprinkle your dry gelatin on top of it and let it sit for 3 or 4 minutes, and it'll look like this. See? It's like, it's even spongy. It feels kind of like plastic. It's weird. And for seasonings, tablespoon of dried parsley. You can use fresh if you want to. A half a teaspoon of onion powder. About a half a teaspoon, maybe a little bit less of salt, but that's to taste. And this is a pinch of celery seeds because I like the flavor of celery. And I don't want all the extra water that you would have from whole chopped up celery. If you don't have celery seeds, but you do have celery salt, you can just use a half a teaspoon of celery salt, or you can just leave this out because it's just for flavor. And we've got some black pepper, freshly ground, and we're going to put in a little bit of freshly grated nutmeg. As far as these two go, the pepper and the nutmeg, you already know, in my opinion, if you're not going to have them freshly ground, just leave them out because the flavor is so profoundly different. It's just not even worth bothering, in my opinion. So that's all of our equipment and all of our ingredients. And so we're going to get started here. Here we go. We're going to put our chicken right into our processor. Now we're going to pulse this about 12 to 15 times just to get this started before we start putting the rest of the ingredients in. Okay, that's 15 times, and it's time to open up and push, scrape our sides down and push the mixture down anyway, because this will tend to ball up. And if it balls up too much, it just goes round and around and doesn't grind up well. So you need to mash it down every now and then anyway. Okay, now that we have that done, everything else just goes right in. Eggs, gelatin, see how it comes out in a little puck?
Oh, that's not very
Can I like to chop it up a little bit once we get it down in here, break it up a little bit just to make sure we don't accidentally end up with a big chunk of it somewhere. Just the edge of my scraper is plenty to do that. Okay, that's good. Parsley, onion powder,
Oh, darn.
salt,
If it was wrong, why did you do that?
celery seeds,
You got me outside from nothing.
black pepper. I don't even know how much this is. This is about 5 or 6 grinds, probably about 1/8 of a teaspoon. And nutmeg. As I've said before, you can just leave this out, but this adds, I find that nutmeg and black pepper go together so well. They support each other. You need less. Don't worry about it, honey.
I'm coming.
Don't worry about it. you need less pepper and less nutmeg altogether when using them together. That's my hubby's new cell phone. We're not going to worry about that. And so we got about 10 scrapes of that. We're just going to add this. And before we put the egg white powder in, we are going to just start this off to get this mixed up. And we're going to do about 8 more pulses. Here we go. And now our egg white powder. As I've said before with egg white powder, it's real hygroscopic. It's really attracted to water. You have to keep it absolutely dry. Every vessel that you put it in has to be dry. Every spoon that you put in it has to be absolutely dry. Otherwise, just the tiniest little bit of water will cause it to clump up and turn into little hard rocks. So I can show you. I keep my egg white powder in this plastic bin with a snap top airtight lid, just to keep the humidity out of it. The bags that it comes in is usually not sufficient, but I open it, I measure out what I'm going to use, and I immediately close it again, because that's the only way to keep it usable. Just as a warning. So here we go. Now, we're going to run this probably for 30 seconds to a minute, however long it takes, because it has to be completely pureed and it has to be really well mixed. So we're going to run this for about 15 seconds and then scrape it down and see where we're at. There we go. And it's looking pretty good. I don't see any big chunks, but it's not quite there yet. We are going to run for about another 15 seconds and then see where we're at. And I think it'll probably be done. So what you want to do when you're looking for this, you want to look down into it and look, and you see if you can see any chunks of chicken. It should all be really, really finely ground. Any chunks you see, if you see any, should be, you know, no bigger than, you know, like smaller than a grain of rice. And I don't see any chunks at all in here. But I still see some what look like thick spots. So we're going to do about 15 seconds more. There we go. That should be it. Yeah, perfect. It's all a uniform paste. Shouldn't look like ground meat. It should look like a puree. A pesto or a pestata in Italian. A pâté in French. Now, we're going to get this out of the way. And we're going to plug in our cooktop, because I only have so many plugs up here. There we go. And we're going to get our pan of water working, because this is an induction cooktop, and Mr. Cooktop does not like it when we turn it on without a pan on the top of it. So he's very picky. And we're going to, power is 600, which is middling, and temperature we're going to have at just above boiling, 240. Let me wash my hands a little bit. So this is going to come up to temperature pretty quick because I already had it heating up on my stove in the back. Now we're going to move this directly into our piping rig or into your Ziploc bag. Mash it down into the bottom as good as you can. Try to get this loaded. Try to mash it down when you load it in so that you don't have any big air pockets, because that just creates complications when you're going to pipe into your poaching liquid. Now I'm going to be using my fingers here. Don't be afraid of using your fingers. Keep your fingers clean and use them. Your hands are your best culinary tool. They're always there for you. They're easy to keep clean. You never lose them in a drawer. Don't be afraid to use them. Don't be afraid to touch your food. It's good for you. Okay, there's that. And the last of it. There we go. You know, as you all probably know from having watched me before, I can sit and take 10 minutes to scrape out a container because that's just me, but you don't have to do that. There we go. And now here we have our paste. Gather the top of your bag in a little bunch in the crook of your thumb like this, and just start to rotate the bag, twist it, and that's going to move the paste down into the tip of the bag. Right? Once you have it almost all the way to the end, push it back in your holder. And I'm going to raise this a little bit just to get it going. Won't take but a minute. Rinse my hands off again. And just waiting for our water to come to temperature. Oh, you can see, I don't know if you can see, the little bubbles are beginning to come up from the bottom of the pan. That's enough. You don't want this to really boil because it'll break your dumplings apart. Now, I've seen people do this and they say you use a scissors or you use a fork or use a knife or something to cut the little dumplings off the end of the bag. I'm like, no, I pinch them. Your fingers are your best culinary tool, and I will stand by that. So we're going to squeeze out about an inch and pinch it off, just like that. Go ahead and twist the bag as you squeeze it out and the bag empties. Go ahead and twist it around some more. Now I've put 30 dumplings in there. I find in this particular pot with this particular volume of water, that's about as much as I can comfortably cook in there. If you have a bigger pot of water, you can do more. But if you put too much in, the water just has a hard time coming back up to temperature. So look, you can see they're floating. It is said that as soon as they float, they're done. Yeah, very likely, but I am going to wait for them all to float, and then I'm going to give them about 15 more seconds just to make sure. Are we all floated? Looks that way. Okay. You see, this water has never boiled, but it's plenty hot enough to cook these because eggs and chicken both are completely cooked, and chicken breasts are both completely cooked at about 140 degrees, really, and that's all the hotter really they need to get. And once they begin to float, they're basically pretty much done. We're going to fish them out. Now this is only about 1/3 of my chicken dough that I've done here. So I got 2 more of these to do, and you don't have to sit here and watch me boil water. So I'm going to pause the video. I'm going to finish this up, and then we will go on from there. I'll see you back here in just a minute. Welcome back, precious friends. Our gnocchis are done. We're about to fish out the last batch from the water. There they are. The water did come almost to a boil. It actually did start boiling, and I backed the heat off because, like I said, you don't want the water to boil because it knocks the gnocchis apart, and because you just don't need it that high. And if you heat up chicken breast, this is basically chicken breast and eggs, both of which, if you heat them up too much, too quickly, just get tough. So the gelatin helps stop that from happening. But here we go. Here is all of our lovely little gnocchis. We're going to turn this off. We're going to move this out of the way. Now, precious friends, look at these. These are so delicious, I cannot tell you. I have seen these made with no seasoning at all. And the idea, I think, is to keep them neutrally flavored. But they're so delicious like this, and the herbal flavor and the onion and the celery all just come together, and they don't, it's not overwhelmingly chickeny. It's delicious without being, you know, super chickeny. And I think it's a wonderful foil for the carnivore macaroni and cheese that we're going to do in our next video. But these are so yummy. I could just sit and eat this just like this, fresh out of the water. You can put these in a little bowl with brown butter and, like I said, some sage. That's delicious. You can put these, if you're eating keto, you can let them cool and put them on top of a salad. You could toss them in a bowl of zoodles. You could put them, I saw the keto sisters, the keto twins, using some sort of soy wrapper to make pot stickers, which you could absolutely do that with this dough. I wouldn't eat soy, but I mean, if you do, you could do that with this dough. You can these are so versatile and delicious that you could just do anything with them. Put a little heavy cream and grated hard cheese like Parmigiano Reggiano or Pecorino Romano, and just make a bowl full of loveliness and delight. Anyway, here they are. And I'm going to be back very soon to show you how I do my cheese sauce. And then we're going to make a beautiful crunchy topping and broil it in the oven to make a wonderful casserole. But that would make the video too long, so we're already at half an hour. So I will see you soon, next time, very, very, very soon. And until then, I wish you peace, love, and meat. Bye-bye, friends.